Would you try Tyler's BS? Or is a cheeseburger more your thing? Or if you're a psychopath, would you prefer the mess? I've watched the menu twice, and I gotta say, the palate cleanser was the least impressive. But don't get me wrong, it's still better than the day-old coffee I drink every morning. What impressed me most about the cleanser was its simplicity. Wild bergamot and red clover tea sounds unique, refreshing, and fragrant. I don't know if that particular combination actually cleanses your palate, but I'd personally drink it nonetheless. It just looked too good to me. That just goes to show you that even the least impressive items in the movie were leagues above what the common man has every day. Oh, and the same goes for the amuse-bouche. It looked more appetizing than the tuna melt I had for dinner. Now, I don't know whether it was the cucumber lemon, the milk snow, or the charred lace, but there was something so compelling about the dish that I can't put my finger on. The lace bit was genius because it added a layer of depth to the starters, you know? Or should I say, the hors d'oeuvres? Anyway, the ingredients seemed like the perfect mix to begin the main course. The charred lace foreshadowed the s'mores, right? The amuse-bouche, however, is a high point from which the rest of the story gradually reveals the truth. But the menu keeps you on your toes as it presents the first course. The eerie atmosphere and the maitre d's passive-aggressive behavior keeps things tense. But the dish itself, called the island, is actually pretty smart. What I loved about it is that it's a miniature version of the island they're on. It's made entirely from the resources found there, including rocks from the shore, filtered seawater, and hand-picked leaves. It's a gorgeous concept too, because it's constantly in motion. Since it's served cold, it melts before your eyes as you slowly devour the contents of the island. And it's one of the many instances of foreshadowing we see throughout the movie. Like the calm before the storm, everything devolves after this point. And after that, I loved Man's Folly. It comes during the middle of the movie, and it's unique. Yep, that's the word I'm looking for. Like The Mess, but less gory. And the presentation really intrigued me too. Especially since it showed everyone that not even the great Chef Slowik is exempt from the dining experience. And it gives back some of the power to one of the female sous chefs, who explains that Slowik sexually harassed her and then ignored her hard work for weeks. It puts his perverted and sexist behavior on display for everyone to watch. She stabs him in the thigh, putting Slowik in his place. And then the male guests get a chance to escape the island. Well, the female guests head into the restaurant with the sous chef. They enjoy Dungeness crab, dried sea lettuce, fermented yogurt, and kelp. That might not sound appetizing, but it sure as hell looked delicious. But while we're at bloody displays of fine dining, why not talk about one of the most terrifying yet brilliant courses in the movie? The Mess, or the fourth course, is diabolical. It's the kind of horror you know is coming, but you're still shocked when it does. I knew the moment the staff laid the tarp on the floor that sous chef Jeremy was a dead man. But it's the way Slowik breaks him down before he shoots himself that stuck with me the most. The meal itself wasn't that remarkable, if I'm honest. I mean, compared to the unique ingredients we've seen so far. Roasted filet, potato confit, bone marrow, and pressure-cooked veggies. It's a delicious meal on its own, but the way the scene contrasts it with the sudden death is haunting. No one could eat that after seeing a man shoot himself through the mouth. On the flip side, The Mess is a perfect example of the movie's dark humor. Another moment I loved a bit more because of its ridiculousness was the Pessard egg. It's a single item offered only to one guest at the end of Man's Folly. But that's what makes the egg gag memorable for me. So while all the male guests try to escape, the staff tries catching them. Ted, the critic's brown-nosing partner, holds out the longest before being caught. So he gets a sad little consolation prize for his effort. Even though it's a joke item, it still looks beautifully put together. a poached egg yolk, creme fraiche, and maple. It's a hot and cold dish created by Chef Alan Passard, but what's the menu's own little spin on it? The part where the staff member casually slides his hand into the chicken coop and tells Ted that he's won the egg had me in stitches. And so did the final course, if I'm being honest. Well, not so much stitches as, wow, that's weird, devastating, and funny. The dessert was the culmination of Chef Slowik's meticulously planned evening. And the menu won't be complete until they get to the end. This brings us to the main event, the s'more. Now, the reason I found it funny was because of the guest's almost grateful acceptance of death. For a moment, I thought, okay, Slowik's asking them to settle bills, handing out gift bags. He probably intended to traumatize them for life. Maybe that's what the Slowik experience is. I was immediately wrong. First, the ingredients: marshmallows, chocolate, graham crackers, customer, staff, and restaurant. I snorted when the list flashed on the screen. But then I felt horrible because it's a horrifying way to die. On a remote island, getting toasted into a literal s'more with a bunch of strangers. Yeah, I'd rather have Tyler talk to me about how sensitive his palate is. It'd be burned in my memory, sure, but I'd be alive. Actually, the memory is the next dish on my list of favorites. The plot thickened at this point. Slowik loved taco nights at home with his mother, and so he modeled the dish after them. And the perfect taco, according to Chef, is house-smoked breast chicken thigh stabbed with scissors. And house-made tortillas, simple and wholesome. But the moment that guests pick up the tortillas, they realize they've been exposed. Financial fraud, cheating on a partner, taking pictures of the food despite being told not to. All the damning evidence is printed on the tortillas for everyone to see. I've got to give it to Slowik. This man's a genius. He knows his patrons, and he understands clever commentary. Speaking of commentary, I could talk all day about the second course, the breadless bread plate. There's a lot to unpack with this dish, since it highlights an important aspect of Slowik's disdain for the ultra-rich. He states that grain represents 65% of agriculture, while fruits and veggies are about 6%. But he goes deeper and explains that bread is the food of the common man. However, the guests aren't the common man. They're rich and spoiled, and don't struggle for scraps. So they don't get bread, just the condiments and a spoon. I love this because of the obvious social commentary, but also the reactions of the guests. I thought this would have been my absolute favorite dish from the movie, but it's not. The cheeseburger is. Let's keep aside the fact that Margot saw the newspaper article in his office, and she's doing anything she can to survive. The reason why the cheeseburger felt like the best dish on the menu isn't because it's simple and delicious. It's because Margot genuinely connected with Slowik with her request. When he cooked the burger, he looked genuinely happy, as though he'd rediscovered his love for cooking and what it means to feed someone. The pair connected on a level only a chef and a patron can, through mutual appreciation and respect. And I love that so much. Shout out to Tyler's BS though. He knew every term in the cookbook, but didn't understand what eating was really about. And that's it for now. I'll see you in the next one.